Good evening and welcome to the Village of Waukesha. It sounded so good, I think I'll say it again. Welcome to the Village of Waukesha. Tonight is Thursday, May 14th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. This is a special board meeting of the Village of Waukesha. So welcome all. We've been called to order. I understand we have a dignitary in the crowd tonight who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you step forward and maybe introduce yourself, and we'll all rise and join you in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Hello, my name is Carl, and I go to Waukesha STEM Academy Randall campus, and I am 10 years old. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Carl. That was great. You didn't disappoint at all. That's everything we expected and more, so thank you. It was an honor. Roll call, please, and even as we do that, should introduce Clerk Treasurer Nicholas is unable to be here tonight, so might be kind of a new face to you, but to my right, to your left, as you're looking on, is our new Deputy Clerk Treasurer, Mary Elsner. I mean, you can give an introduction like Carl if you wanted to, or you can pass that by, but we need the roll call.
Okay. We have President Fisher.
Here.
Trustee German.
Here.
Trustee Stigler.
Here.
Trustee Dorr.
Here.
And Trustee Kulinski.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is open meeting law compliance check. The statement is the agenda was posted on the 3 village public notice boards, the village website, and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on or before Friday, May 8th, 2020. Mary, can you confirm the accuracy of that statement?
Affirmed, President Fisher.
Thank you. Okay, item 5 is communications with town residents. I'm going to just share a couple of very quick things before we get into the meat of the meeting here. One item would be a large item pickup, garbage pickup, or bulk item pickup. I think, as most people are aware of, that was suspended for March and for April. It will resume here in May. So those people who regularly have Friday garbage pickup will have large item or bulk item pickup a week from tomorrow, Friday, May 22nd. People who are on a Tuesday pickup route will have large item pickup on Wednesday, May 27th. That'll be a downstream a day from regular Tuesday because of Memorial Day weekend. So Friday the 22nd, Wednesday the 27th, we'll be back to large item pickup. The other thing is the yard waste site on the Village Hall property was reopened on May 2nd, Saturday, May 2nd, so we're on to the regular schedule with that. Town Hall is open for regular business again, except for the in-person voting, which was allowed within recent weeks. The Town Hall was basically closed except for special situations or telephonic interaction, so we're back open for regular business. Let's do, or I guess I would inquire, are there communications with village residents that any other staff member or board member would like to bring forward at this time?
Yes, I have one, Mr. President. While I missed the April 30th meeting, I did watch via YouTube, and there was significant discussion about the emergency order and how it applied. Am I to assume with the Supreme Court's decision that is now rescinded in the town?
I have not taken a formal action on it. That was put in place through the 30th of May. We can certainly, I guess, address that at this point in time, unless Attorney Macy would advise otherwise. It would be
well, it's not on the agenda, so we
can't discuss it. Okay, fair enough.
Well,
so we'll do that outside of it.
It's related to citizens' comments, but I'll just simply add that in reviewing it again today, it was set to coincide with and there was specific discussion about the Supreme Court, the pending decision with the Supreme Court. So I would expect that to be consistent with the motion that was made and seconded and passed, that would now be rescinded.
Okay, and we're not going to dive deep into that because it's not on the agenda. I will tell you, I don't think, my recollection is the motion said that it was contingent upon the Supreme Court decision, but we can't go any further with that tonight, but appreciate your thoughts on that. Any other communications with village residents? I'll explain a little bit more when we get to the substance of the meeting. Citizens' comments. Anybody who would like to address the board at this point in time, you're welcome to come forward for 3 minutes to the microphone. Come on forward. Mike, why don't we let this young lady go first, if you don't mind? Room is filled with polite people tonight, right? Give us your name, address, please, and then proceed.
My name is Linda Muse, M-U-I-S-E. Address is W234 S3220 Sunset View.
Thank you.
Okay. I just have a question regarding Exhibit A, the village officials. I don't see on here that there is the administrator. So my question is did the administrator role get rolled into another, position here that is, the administrator isn't listed separately on here? So that's my question.
Fine, and we'll address that issue when we get to that part of the agenda, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Next.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Borchert, West 231, South 5205, Hunters Hollow. I would just like to express my thanks and gratitude to now President Fisher, Attorney Macy, board members, the office staff, and everyone else that's been involved in getting us to be a village. I know that from what I've heard, it was a very difficult road to follow, filled with a lot of potholes, but those obstacles were overcome. And I just hope that all of the town or village people, residents, understand the importance of this and appreciate all the work that has been done to get to this point. So a lot of people don't come here, don't look at the website, but hopefully they will understand. And I will comment on the Evers order, and the legislature, they have to wait 6 days for the legislator to take any action on it, for anyone that doesn't understand what's going on there. So it'll be next week before anything can be decided as far as the stay-at-home order goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to address the board? Please come forward, give us your name and address, and proceed.
My name is Ted Dahl. I've lived at on Center Road since 1964. My address is West 250, South 3803, Center Road, Waukesha. I just wondered, I haven't attended any of these meetings for such a long time. I wondered if there's been any discussion about changing the name of the village from the village of Waukesha. People that aren't familiar with Wisconsin law will be confused, I think, when they think about here's the village of Pewaukee and there's the city of Pewaukee. Now we have the city of Waukesha and the village of Waukesha. I think it'd be nice if we'd change the name. I don't know, whatever you think, but maybe you could have a little contest about what would the rest of the people think and what would they suggest for a name. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will probably speak to that when we get into the rest of the meeting. Who else would like to speak, please? Come forward. Thought Carl was coming up to speak, no? Okay. Anybody else?
My name is Robert Catone, S15W22302 Arcadian Avenue. I just have a question. The address signs that we have, do they say Town or Waukesha on them? I didn't know. I just thought of it a few minutes ago.
They do.
Do they? Okay. I was just wondering if that'd be changed ever on in life or not.
Fair question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, then we're done with citizens' comments. I'm going to just make a couple of real quick comments about what this meeting is about tonight. Attorney Macy or others may want to hitchhike on it a bit. This is a rather limited agenda tonight, and explain just a little bit briefly how we got here. I think most people are aware of the fact that we had the referendum on incorporation on the 5th of May, which was a week ago, Tuesday past, in which 2,268 votes were cast for a village, 206 votes were cast against a village, 91.7% of the votes were in favor of a village. That was the culmination of a year's work. We're not going to dive deep into what that all entailed. The other thing that needed to happen after the vote was concluded was we needed to get paperwork and a $1,000 check to the Department of Administration in Madison so they could issue a certificate of incorporation, a formal document that did in fact take place, I believe, on Tuesday, day before yesterday, the 12th, at which point in time we officially became a village. We, last week, hunched a bit that that certification would take place and scheduled the meeting tonight, and the statute that we're following says that within 10 days of the issuance of that certificate for incorporation, the town must hold a meeting to set the time for the first village election. So that is primarily what's driving tonight's meeting. We have a couple of other things that Attorney Macy has guided us that put onto the agenda, so that's really what drives the meeting. We are doing this in a rather simple and streamlined version tonight. We're doing what we need to do by statute, what's required. There will be some fine-tuning and polishing of things downstream, assuming we move ahead. We're not literally doing oaths of office tonight. Those will be done in succeeding days here and be administered by the clerk treasurer. We're not doing any celebratory type of things. We may have need for a town board meeting on the 28th of May, 2 weeks downstream from today. There may be some things we need to do relative to the incorporation effort. There may be some other business issues. We'll get into the substance of that in a minute. John, do you want to add anything to that about what we're
Yeah,
what
if
this
I
is
may,
about
Mr.
tonight?
Chairman, one of your members asked where our statutory, and the statutes are very short, and I'm going to read them, and I think it's important for everyone to hear what guidance the legislature gave us, not a lot, on what to do upon being incorporated. First, village powers. A village incorporated under this section is a body corporate and politic with the powers and privileges of a municipal corporation at common law and conferred by Chapter 61. And that's very important because towns are unincorporated, you know, and this is a corporation now. The next section, existing ordinances. Ordinance in force in the territory or any part of the territory to the extent not inconsistent with this section or Chapter 61 continue in full force until altered and repealed. That's important because people want to know what the laws are in the new village, and all the laws remain the same. Some communities, especially if they incorporate under a different section than this one, have what they call a charter ordinance prepared for tonight, which lays down a lot more rules. And it goes down, if you go to the Village of Summit website or the Village of Richfield, you'll find Charter Ordinance number 1. And We were directed as staff to say, do the minimum for tonight as required by law, which we're doing. Anything else that may be needed, if we need a meeting on the 28th, we'll deal with it. But otherwise, the original direction, of course you all can change that over the next couple of months, was that the charter ordinances and everything would be done with the new village board. They would decide the new ordinances. And again, that can change, and we may have ordinances that have to be addressed between now and next April, but those will be policies, decisions that you'll be making. But the staff is operating under the premise that we're doing the minimum tonight, we're tweaking what needs to be tweaked, if anything, on the 28th or going forward, but the heavy laboring oars will be done between now and April, and then the new board can look at what they want to do. You have a lot of, as many of you know, unique rules and ordinances in the town, and you have to decide whether you want to keep those or not. The next one is a little lengthier. I'm not going to read it. It's existing intergovernmental and cooperative boundary agreements, and that's just a provision that all existing cooperative boundary agreements still remain in effect, and that's important because it was part of this law. Then we get to the next one, interim officers, first village election, section 6215, 8 and 9, as it applies to the towns that incorporated as a city, which we didn't, but applies to towns that incorporate under a village. So what we're acting under tonight is another section, I'm clicking over, interim officers. All officers of the town embracing the territory incorporated as the village continue in their powers and duties until the first meeting of the village board in which a quorum is present. Until a city clerk is chosen, qualified, all oaths of offices and other papers shall be filed with the town clerk with whom the petition was filed, and shall deliver them with the petition to the city clerk when the city clerk is qualified. And then first city election, within 10 days after incorporation of the city, the town board and the town clerk who receive the petitions of 6 at a time for the first city elections designate the polling place or places and name 3 inspectors of election for each place. 10 days previous notice of the election shall be given, and the rest of this is all the requirements of the election. We don't need to deal with them tonight. I can read it. 10 days previous notice of the election shall be given by the clerk by the publication in the newspaper selected under sub 3 and by posting notice in 3 public places in the village. Failure to give notice does not invalidate the election. The election shall be conducted as prescribed in chapters 5 to 12, which is the election law. The inspection shall return to the board. The inspector shall make returns to the board, which shall, within 14 days after elected, canvass the returns and declare the results. The clerk shall notify the officers elect and issue certificates of election. If the first election is on the first Tuesday in April, the officers elected and their appointees commence and hold their office as for a regular term. Otherwise, they commence within 14 days and hold until the regular village election and the qualifications for successors and terms. So I read that to you because that's the only guidance that we were able to find that tells us what we're supposed to do tonight, okay? And it's very important that we do what we're required to do, but that's it. So you can do much more than that if you're wanting to do, but this is what you're required to do tonight. So hopefully that's helpful. The resolutions, ordinance, and, well, first the possible appointment of the village officials, the ordinance and the resolution are here tonight to accomplish the purposes by which I just read.
Okay, Attorney Macy, thank you for laying the groundwork for items 7, 8, and 9, which he just described. Before we proceed to that, I have a written communication here which is pertinent to these agenda items, which I will read into the record. It begins, my name is Sandy Hom, W230 S38 27 Milky Way Road. I would much have preferred to attend this meeting in person, but out of respect for the board staff and any residents in attendance, I submit these remarks in written format. First, I would like to thank and congratulate all involved in the year-long effort to incorporate as village. This appreciation extends to Jim Radke, whom I suspect is absent from this meeting, but was supportive and part of the effort, as well as the town clerk, Kathy Nicholas, as I suspect she is absent tonight. For me, the primary item on list, or for that matter, any time prior to April 2021. I have several reasons for this position. Election fatigue and the current pandemic are 2. But more so is the fact that the town just had an election last month for 2 supervisor and this month a referendum. I believe that a large majority of the electorate is fully satisfied with the current composition of the board. I know I am. I do not believe an August date is preferable because it requires the 2 newly elected members to have to run again within 4 months. Further, any new candidates would have minimal time to prepare, file paperwork, and campaign. But lastly, I believe the most important thing during this transition period and to protect the new village from attacks from the city is continuity. I would not favor potentially an entire new board of 5 members to get up to speed to finish this process and protect us from legal attacks from the city. I support continuity for now and newly elected officials in April 2021. Thank you for the consideration to present these comments in writing instead of in person. With that said, we'll move to item 7, which is discussion.
Before we move on, Mr. President, I have a question. Are we gonna continue moving forward to read written comments submitted into the record? I don't recall that having been done in the past.
Probably not. Attorney Macy, maybe you want to address that issue. You've given some
Yes.
recommendation on that.
We received the request tonight, and the deputy clerk brought it to my attention with the instructions that she was told that it was supposed to be read under citizen comments. I recommended against that because we don't have a policy on reading statements, and in fact, in the past, we have not read written citizens' comments under citizen comments. And I warn all of my communities that they should establish a policy before allowing that. Otherwise, you could get inundated with hundreds of pages to be asked to be read under citizen comment. So this was not brought up under citizen comments. But any of you, as an elected official, at any time when you have the floor, can reference contacts that you've had from your constituents. And oftentimes you do. Maybe not in writing as such, but so it was requested to be brought under citizen comments. Any of the 5 of you could have brought it up at any time that you had the floor and could bring up at any time any communication you get from your constituents that you feel is important. Many times you've said, I received a call on agenda item 8 from so-and-so or from a constituent, and you know, that sways me a little bit. And so I don't think that the reading of this was out of order of any past practice that you've had. So that's my position. You can disagree with me, and I respect that, but we did not do it under citizens' comments on purpose to set a precedent that I think you would come to regret. But I said to the chairman, any of you could read it if you were of a mind to do so, and he was of a mind to do so.
Very interesting that we would choose to read this one and not publish to others in the town, that if they choose to have their written comments submitted and read into the record that they could do so, but I guess that's just.
Well, I'll just offer one thing, and we're going to cap it off here and go no further with this tonight. This
Well,
isn't,
we may or-
just wait,
we may or
just
may
wait,
not cap
just
it
wait,
off.
just wait.
We may or may
Wait,
not cap it
please.
off.
Wait,
You don't make the
please.
decision as to
I
whether
have the
we
floor.
cap it off.
Wait, please.
Well, you don't make the decision as to whether we cap it off.
Wait, please. Okay? We're not going to have pandemonium in the room here, okay? Respectfully listened to your comments. My suggestion, this is not on the agenda tonight for deliberation. If you have some thoughts or feelings about this, we probably should have a policy. I would commend you to author a policy, put it on the agenda, and bring it forward to the board, okay? That's how we're capping it off tonight. Come forward with a policy that we can consider and deliberate and discuss. Fair enough? Okay, item 7. Discussion and possible action to appoint village officials. Reference is C Exhibit A. That is a 2-page document. I know Clerk Treasurer Nicholas, Attorney Macy, Deputy Clerk Treasurer Elsner, and I spent a fair amount of time putting this together. We believe that this captures all current elected officials, officers, and appointed officials and officers. I think we're looking for a motion on this to appoint these officials to the positions and for the terms indicated on Exhibit A. Is that what we're looking for, Counselor?
Yes, and looking at what other communities did, and the only other community that I'm aware of under this, that incorporated under this state law had, as you stated, the ceremonials. They weren't in the middle of a pandemic back in 2015 when this law was adopted. And they actually swore in each of these, not all of them, but most of these officers at the meeting, had them serve their bonds and things like that. A decision was made that, and so if you go back and look at what Windsor did, the town of Windsor to the village of Windsor, that's what they did. And we were following their guidance to make sure we did all the right things. And the decision was made not to invite all these people to come in tonight to be sworn, but rather just to adopt the exhibit. But we can do it any way you want, but that's how we got here, and I just wanted to give you that history.
Am I correct in, I think you may have mentioned this, but I think that assuming we move forward on this, those positions that require someone to take an oath of office, those oaths are supposed to be administered within 5 days, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
It's my understanding, the sooner the better.
All right, so we can discuss this in some detail, but it would probably be appropriate for someone to put a motion in place at this point in time to adopt amended Exhibit A to agenda item number 1, discussion possible action to appoint village officials for the village of Waukesha. Is there someone who would choose to make that motion at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion to adopt the amendment to the agenda for appoint these village officials on Exhibit A.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion was made by Trustee Stigler, seconded by Trustee German, to, what's the appropriate word that we want here? Is it adoption or acceptance? But Exhibit A, what's the appropriate word that we want here?
Well, I think it would be to appoint.
All right, to appoint the village officials as listed on amended Exhibit A. Does that fairly represent your motion?
Yes, it does.
Okay, discussion. Okay, if there's no...
I pause to let others participate.
Oh, go ahead.
If not, so I thought I heard you say that there's nobody on this list that is currently on a committee or in a position that is not assigned to that position on this list?
The attempt was to make this a comprehensive list. If you think it's missing something, bring it forth.
No, I didn't hear him say that, but let me clarify, there are some changes. In checking, the village president checked the joint municipal agreement and found that they needed to be elected officials. So there's a vacant position on there because the prior town board had appointed Kathy Nicholas to that position. And apparently, I didn't check it, but Mr. President, I'll defer to you. You looked at the agreement at the recent meeting and found that it needed to be an elected official. Is that correct?
You're talking about the joint municipal committee member?
Yes.
No, I don't believe, I don't know this fact. I'm not sure that that appointment was ever made by a previous board, but the agreement specifically says that there shall be 2 members from the respective boards of the municipalities, Big Bend and Waukesha, and they shall be appointed annually. That's what the agreement says. That was executed in 2015.
And to the best of my recollection, that is the only change. There were additions constantly made. You'll see some of those, the reason they're in italics was because they were added. The weed commissioner was moved, that's why he's in italics. But the extraterritorial zoning committee member of President Fisher was missed the first go around, so you'll see that in italics. So other than those that were missed and added, the only change that I personally am aware of, and I worked on this with the clerk, was the one that I have referenced. Now, a citizen under public comments asked, where's the village administrator position? That position is not filled at the moment. Ms. Nicholas, several months ago, and we all know the story that was around, has declined taking it as an appointed position and has taken it and serves only as the clerk treasurer and has since January 1st, I believe.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, so she's aware of that, and she knows that she's not being appointed as the village administrator, and it is in part, I can say, and people can correct me, that it's with her understanding and her acquiescence to that at this moment.
Okay, any other questions, discussion, comments about Exhibit A or the motion on the floor?
So the only person that's being removed from a position is Clerk Treasurer Nicholas from the Joint Municipal Committee member. Is that right?
Well, I would not use the word removed because, I mean, I will tell you straight out, she told me that former town chairman John Merrick told her that she could have that position. That's all the information I can share with you at this point in time.
Well, I'm
So-
not looking for hearsay about who said what
No.
when. I'm asking,
Yeah, I
the only
misrepresented.
person that is being removed from a current position, currently she sits on the Joint Municipal Committee, and as of this passage, she won't.
No, I think that is an open question, whether she has ever been on that committee. So I don't want to quibble with words, but
To
I
answer
think
your
that's an
question,
open
the
question.
goal of the staff was to list everybody in the exact position, in the exact term that they currently serve. And if it's not that way, other than with that one exception, it's an error. And we'd bring it back on the 28th. So if you know of a member that we've missed, like we have an opening in the Plan Commission, we have an opening on the Zoning Board of Appeals, we've not contacted these people to ask them if they want to be reappointed. We didn't reach out, which you might do as a normal appointment process. We did not do any of that. We were trying to stick to the status quo. As the statute says, all officers of the town embracing the village continue in their powers and duty until the first meeting. And our goal, as we were directed as staff for your consideration, and you can change it, was to bring forth that to you. All officers of the town will now be appointed to the village in their same terms, same positions. That was the goal. So if it's not, other than with that one change, that I'm not aware of it. Okay?
Okay, any other questions, comments, discussion? Okay, then everybody understands the motion. We will proceed to vote, and we will do this as a roll call vote, Mary. Please.
President Fisher,
Aye.
Trustee German,
Aye.
Trustee Stigler,
Aye.
Trustee Dorr,
Aye.
Trustee Kolinsky.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move to item 8. Item 8 is discussion and possible action on Resolution 2020-01, resolution establishing date for election, initial terms of village board members for election, compensation for village board, and related procedural requirements for spring 2021 election. I think this is actually worthy of reading this resolution. I'll do it as quickly as I can so everybody's up to speed with the same information. After I read the resolution, it would probably be advisable, if somebody's inclined to do so, to make a motion to approve the resolution, second it, so we can have discussion. So I will read it. I'll dispense with the title. I think I just read that as the agenda item. But it reads as follows. Whereas, as set forth in the certification of official election results in incorporation of the village of Waukesha, which is attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated by reference, a referendum election was held in the town of Waukesha on May 5th, 2020, pursuant to Wisconsin Stats 66.02162. The official canvass of the votes was held on May 5th, 2020, and the official results of the canvass on the question, quote, shall the town of Waukesha become a village, unquote, are 2,268 votes cast for a village and 2,006 votes cast against a village. Whereas, as required by law, the organizational meeting of the village of Waukesha was held on May 14th, 2020. In fact, that's what we're doing as I speak. And whereas, in order to further assure continuity of local government by elected representatives, the village board wishes to establish a date for election of the village president and trustees, terms and compensation for such offices, and related procedural requirements for the election, all as set forth in this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved by the village board of the village of Waukesha as follows. Number 1, the recitals set forth above are incorporated by reference. Number 2, the election of the village president, village trustee 1, village trustee 2, village trustee 3, and village trustee 4 shall occur at the regular spring 2021 election. The village president elected at the regular spring 2021 election shall serve a 2-year term that shall expire in April 2023. Village trustee 2 and village trustee 4 elected at the regular spring 2021 election shall serve 2-year terms that shall expire in April 2023. Number 5, village trustee 1 and village trustee 3 elected at the regular spring 2021 election shall serve 1-year terms that shall expire in April 2022. Number 6, as provided above regarding length of terms, the election process shall follow the legal requirements for a spring election of a village president and village trustees. Number 7, the election is set for April 1st, 2021, with a primary date of February 16th, 2021, if needed. There will be 2 polling places, one at Town Hall and one at the fire station, both located at W250 S3567 Center Road. Number 8, the 3 poll workers for each polling place will be in the Town Hall: Sally Gorman, Barbara Schaefer, Roger Adams. In the fire station, Betsy Novak, Barb Rucci, and Laura Goretke. I hope I've pronounced those correctly. Candidates shall declare their candidacy for positions and submit nomination papers. The village clerk shall create the Type A election notice and arrange for publication of same by the 4th Tuesday in November as required by law. C in particular Wisconsin Stat 01.012A and 0.06, or I'm sorry, is that 10? Is that supposed to be 10 or 1?
10.
10.012A and 10.063A. Number 9, the village president elected in April 2021 shall receive compensation in the amount of $13,187 per year. 10, the village trustees elected in April 2021 shall receive compensation in the amount of $6,857 per year. The above and foregoing resolution was duly adopted at the special organizational meeting of the village board of the village of Waukesha held on the 14th day of May 2020 by a vote of, and this is fill in the blank, blank number in favor and blank number opposed, and then there's a signature block if this were to pass for the deputy village clerk treasurer and the members of the village board to sign this.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, in
please.
number 7, I didn't hear what date. Could we read at least the first sentence of number 7 again?
Yeah. The election, number 7 is the election is set for April 6, 2021, with a primary date of February 16th, 2021, if needed.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Also,
right.
Mr. President,
Yes.
in the beginning you said 2,006 votes cast against the village. It was 206 votes.
Did I say that?
One too many zeros.
Well, I'm sorry. I will correct that if I said that. 2,268 votes cast for a village and 206 votes cast against a village. Important correction. Thank you very much. Okay, is there a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-01?
I'd make the motion to adopt resolution number 2020-01.
Okay.
I would second the motion.
Okay, so the motion was made by trustee German and seconded by trustee Kalinsky to adopt resolution number 2020-01. Discussion, comments, questions?
Board members, as you know, we tried to do the minimum, but you certainly have the power to add or subtract. I was asked to research one issue, and that's whether or not the salary could be rounded to a number. Obviously, over the years, it's been percentage changes, and that's why we get the odd number, and certainly you have the power you're setting this, the salaries that you currently receive will remain the same until April. We can't change, we're not recommending and we've not researched changing salaries during the term of an office, which is not generally allowed under any law. And so this is setting the salaries for those who are elected in April. And if you were of a mind to modify those in a rounded number or any other fashion, I think that would be within your power. I was asked to research that, and I just wanted to report that back to the board.
Just to follow on, I'm in fact the one that asked Attorney Macy about that. And again, I think these, to my knowledge, these compensation levels have been in place for over 10 years, and I think they're kind of funny numbers because they were simpler rounded numbers at one point in time, and I think previous town board, when they gave annual raises out to employees or that type of thing of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5%, those were piled on top of these compensation levels as well. Just a thought for discussion. The board, I guess I'd like to have some input on it. If village trustees were paid, and they're paid monthly, paid $500 a month, that'd be $6,000 a year. That'd be a haircut from the current $6,857. That'd drop $857. If they were $600 a month, it'd be $7,200, so that would be a bit of a bump from the $6,857 to $7,200. In the same vein, the proposed compensation for village president, which is now $13,187 per year. You divide that by 12 months, you end up with some fractions of cents and that type of thing. Typically, that is basically twice compensation for trustees. If you made that $1,000 a month, which would be double $500 a month for the trustees, that'd be $12,000 a year. That'd be a haircut again from the current $13,187. If that was $1,200 a month, which would be double $600 a month for trustees, that'd be $14,400, which would be an increase from the current $13,187. So I just offer that. If we're of a mind to do something like that, this would be the time to do it. I'm advocating for simplicity, and I guess I wanted to put that out there for discussion by board members.
I would advocate rounding down to the next whole number.
Okay. So, and it doesn't have to be what I suggested, but trustees $500, the one I tossed out. I mean, it doesn't have to be around 100 numbers of dollars, but if you did 500, it'd be 6,000.
6,500.
I was suggesting
500 per month.
500 a month, it'd be
Yes.
6,000
Correct.
a year.
Yeah, I would advocate that plan.
And for the village president would be $1,000 a month, which would drop the pay from $13,187 to $12,000 if it was $1,000 a month. Thoughts, anybody else?
I haven't got a problem one way or another. I guess I don't do this for the money, so it's irrelevant from my point.
Mike? David?
I'm on board also, rounding down.
Mike?
Somebody making a motion for an amendment?
Sure, I'll make the motion. I will move to amend resolution number 2020-01 at item 9 to read: the village president elected in April 2021 shall receive compensation in the amount of $12,000 per year. And I think we can take these under the same amendment. The second part would be item 10. The village trustees elected in April 2021 shall receive compensation in the amount of $6,000 per year, and I will so move that amendment. Does anyone want to second it?
I will second.
Okay, so I moved the amendment. It was seconded by trustee Kalinsky. Further discussion. Inasmuch as particularly that involves money, I think we need a roll call vote on that as well. Does everybody understand the motion? It's village president, $12,000 a year, village trustee, $6,000 a year, and that would not be effective until the first election, April of 2021. Correct, John?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. Any further discussion? Then we'll proceed to roll call vote, please.
President Fisher.
Aye.
Trustee German.
Aye.
Trustee Stigler.
Aye.
Trustee Dorr.
Aye.
Trustee Kalinsky.
Aye.
Okay, so the amendment passes 5 in favor, none against. Then we have to go to the resolution itself.
Mr. President, I'd like to offer another motion for an amendment.
Okay.
I would like to move to have item number 2 to read the following. The election of the village president, village trustee 1, village trustee 2, village trustee 3, and village trustee 4 shall coincide with the primary election scheduled for August 11th, 2020.
Okay. Is there a second to the proposed amendment? Does everybody understand the proposed amendment?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Mr. President, would the maker of the motion, even before we second it, number 7 would have to be amended.
Well, there's a number that would have to be amended, but I figured I'd start with this one.
Okay.
Because there's no sense in doing all the work if it's
Okay.
not even going to pull a second.
Okay. Thank you for at least clarifying that, but as long as we were going to continue, I would just hate to have one amended and not the other, or we got a problem, but we can take them one at a time, that's understandable.
Okay, does everybody understand the amendment proposed by trustee Durr? Is there a second to the amendment? Okay, then the proposed amendment will die for lack of a second. Before we entertain any other possible amendments or vote on the motion proper, I have one other item that I think we need to address, and I did discuss this with Attorney Macy before the meeting, and you might even want to educate us a bit on this. The statute, I believe, says that the setting of the time for the first village election is to be done by the town clerk and the board, and maybe I'll say one little thing, and then maybe you can give us the exact language on that. You'll give us the exact language, and then what I believe is an appropriate thing to do. Mary Elsner here, even though she recently joined, indicated that she has been deputized as a deputy clerk treasurer. She is here tonight in the absence of Kathy Nicholas, the clerk treasurer. Unless counselor advises otherwise, it will be my ruling that she will be allowed to vote on the resolution 2020-01. I think that is most consistent with statute. So I gave you a minute. Can you just run that through with the exact language,
yes,
please?
It's number 9, and it says first city election, but it also applies pursuant to first village. Within 10 days after incorporation of the, again it says city, but in this case village, the town board and the town clerk who received the petition shall fix the time and date for the first village election, designating the polling place or places and naming 3 inspectors of election for each place.
Having it said that, I perhaps should have done that before we actually addressed the amendments, but I think we will just move forward from there at this point in time. But certainly if you've got anything you want to add to discussion about the motion proper, you're welcome to do it at this time.
I just abstain.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be important if she's by law required to vote on the resolution to perhaps go back and number one, revote on the motion for the salaries, and then see if she's interested in the second for the motion to the amendment that I put on the table.
I'm going to, and we may lean on a counselor here for a minute. I don't think, I mean, the statute says for the timing of the election, I don't think it would be appropriate for her to vote on the compensation issues, but I agree with you that it probably should have given her the opportunity to second the proposed amendment regarding item number 2. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but the resolution is a resolution of the whole in the course.
So we'll go back to the whole
I
thing.
just asked her how she would have voted on the amendment, so it can be noted in the minutes. Ask her whether she was of a mind to second, and we can
Okay.
quickly deal with those,
All right.
and at least it'll.
Let's
Fair
do
enough.
that then. Is that fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. Then with regard to the amendment about the compensation issue that we addressed, how would you have voted on that if we gave you the opportunity to vote on the amendment?
Abstain, President Fisher.
Okay, she would abstain, if you heard that, abstain, and present. Then the same question with regard to item 2, which was the proposed amendment to hold the election, first village election in August instead of spring of 2021. Would you have had seconded that amendment given the opportunity to do so?
No.
Okay, and I think it's a good point, we doubled back on that, so if that's clean. All right, then if everybody's not thoroughly confused, we are back to the motion proper, which is adoption of Resolution 2020-01. Further discussion, other amendments? Then we'll proceed with the vote as a roll call vote, understanding we're now voting on Resolution 2020 as I read it a bit earlier with the accepted amendment on item 9. A village president elected in 2020 shall receive compensation amount of $12,000 per year. And item 10, village trustees elected in April 2021 shall receive compensation in the amount of $6,000 per year. Is everybody clear on the amended motion that's before us to adopt this resolution? Then we'll proceed with a roll call vote, please.
President Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee German?
Aye.
Trustee Stigler?
Aye.
Trustee Dorr?
No.
Trustee Kalinsky?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 9 is discussion and possible action on ordinance 2020-01, ordinance confirming village status and creating village board. I think it is appropriate that that be read in as well, so if you'll bear with me, we'll try to move through this as quickly as possible. The title of ordinance 2020-01 is an ordinance confirming village status and creating village board by repealing and recreating Chapter 2, entitled, quote, Administration, unquote, Article 1, entitled, quote, In General, unquote, Article 2, entitled, quote, Town Board, unquote, Division 1, entitled, quote, Generally, unquote, of the Town of Waukesha Municipal Code. So this is to repeal and create those parts of the code, and it reads as follows. Whereas on March 23rd, 2020, after fulfilling all the requirements of Wisconsin Stats 66.02162, the Town Board adopted Resolution 2020-03, quote, Resolution to initiate procedure for incorporating Town of Waukesha as a village by providing for referendum on May 5th, 2020, unquote, and whereas on May 5th, 2020, the referendum for incorporation of the town of Waukesha into a village was held, and the official results were 2,268 votes for a village and 206 votes against a village. Now therefore, the village board of the village of Waukesha, Waukesha County, Wisconsin, does hereby ordain as follows. Section 1, repeal Articles 1 and 2, Division 1 of Chapter 2 of the Town of Waukesha Code of Ordinances, parens, the quote, code, unquote, close parens, and replace them with the following The heading is Chapter 2, Administration. Subheading is Article 1 in general. Section 2-1, Legal Status. The Village of Waukesha was incorporated on May 12th, 2020. The village operates under the village system of government pursuant to Wisconsin Stats Chapter 61. Section 2-2, Newspaper Legal Posting. The village shall use posting pursuant to state law as its meaning of giving notice. When publication is required by state law or when directed by the village board, the official newspaper shall be the Waukesha Freeman. Sections 2-3 through 2-22 are reserved. Article 2 is the next heading, Village Board, subheading Division 1 generally. Section 2-23, Members. The Village Board shall be known as the Village Board of Waukesha as provided in Wisconsin Stats 61.34. The Village Board shall consist of 4 trustees and the village president as permitted by Wisconsin Stats 61.20. Paragraph 4. Section 2-24, Elections. At the annual spring election, the village shall elect for 2-year terms. Sub A is in odd-numbered years the village president and trustee 2 and trustee 4. B in even-numbered years, trustee 1 and trustee 3. Section 2-29, Section 2-25 through 2-29 are reserved. Section 2 is entitled Severability. The several sections of this ordinance are declared to be severable if any section or portion thereof shall be declared by a decision of competent jurisdiction to be invalid, unlawful, or unenforceable. Such decision shall apply only to the specific section of or portion thereof directly specified in the decision and shall not affect the validity of any other provisions, sections, or portions thereof of the ordinance. The remainder of the ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. Any other ordinances whose terms are in conflict with the provisions of the ordinance are hereby repealed as to those terms that conflict. Section 3 is the effective date. This ordinance shall take effect immediately upon passage and posting or publication as provided by law. The above and foregoing ordinance was duly adopted at the special organizational meeting of the Village Board of the Village of Waukesha, held on the 14th day of May by a vote of, and it's left blank the number in favor, and again left blank the number opposed, and at the bottom it reads it passed and approved this blank day of blank month of 2020, assuming we're to act upon that, and below that appears the signature block for the 5 village officers and attested to by Mary Elsner, Deputy Village Clerk Treasurer. Is there a motion to approve or adopt ordinance 2020-01, an ordinance confirming village status and creating village board?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the ordinance 2020-01.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by trustee Durr, seconded by trustee Kalinsky. Discussion on the motion.
May I point out, Mr. President, that a very significant portion of this one is that you're reducing the statutory number of 7 for the board down to 5. And that's why this determination has to be made consistent with the resolution. And so the default for villages is 7, and by ordinance you have the right to reduce it. So you're reducing it and setting it at the.
Okay, thank you.
A wise person who happens to be in the audience this evening once told me, smaller government is always better government.
I'll bet there's a lot of wise people in the audience who would say that. Probably everybody was here, right? I see heads going up and down with masks on and masks off. I think everybody would agree to that. Touche. Okay, other comments, questions, discussion? No, sorry. All right, if there's nothing further from the board, we will proceed to vote, and let's do this as a roll call vote again. And before we do that, I don't believe that Deputy Clerk Treasurer Elsner participates in this one. Am I correct on that? She did with regarding setting the date for the first election, but this is something different, so this will just be the village board.
I would agree, Mr. President.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
President Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee German?
Aye.
Trustee Stigler?
Aye.
Trustee Dorr?
Aye.
Trustee Kalinsky?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess, answer a question. The question about the administrator position, I think Attorney Macy addressed that. There's another question about changing the name of the village of Waukesha. To my knowledge, there hadn't really been any formal discussion about that. There might have been a bit of informal discussion. Attorney Macy, maybe you can school us on that. That certainly isn't on the agenda for tonight. If there was a will amongst people to do that at some future date, can they change the name of the municipality?
Yes, in staff's discussion with yourself, as this was one of the things that we said might be left to the future village board, and it would be done by a charter ordinance at that time. And you will ultimately may have to adopt some charter ordinances, but that's the extent of the discussion. There was no suggested name, there was no, somebody asked me what the procedure was, and I said charter ordinance.
So that's for a, if and when, that's for a future date. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. If that answers that question. Okay, if there's nothing further on that, we have one other item on our agenda this evening, and I should even mention to some of you, even though we need to appropriately keep and respect our social distancing tonight, if you've got a specific question about something, you can certainly follow up with any members of the town board with an email, or town staff with an email communication, a telephone call, a text message, if anybody wishes to discuss those things. Typically, after a meeting is concluded, you're welcome to engage somebody in discussion. Again, we are trying to get this done and get out of here as quickly as we can tonight, given the circumstances about us. Okay, accounts payable is item 10, authorization of payments of the bills. If we're inclined to do that, bills before us have an amount of $29,760.33, 29,760.33. Are you of mind to take action on that at this time?
I will move to approve the bills in the amount of $29,760.33.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Are there any recurring monthly bills?
There are none. No, it's clean from that tonight. So the motion to approve the payment of bills in the amount of $29,760.33 was made by Trustee Stigler, seconded by Trustee German. Any further discussion about the motion to pay the bills? And we need to do this as a roll call vote as well, please.
President Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee German?
Aye.
Trustee Stigler?
Aye.
Trustee Dorr?
Aye.
Trustee Kalinsky?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We're at item 11. Somebody ought to make that motion. You ought to put the words first meeting of the village board of the village of Waukesha into the adjournment motion someplace. Somebody want to weave that into there? We need to have a little bit bolder motion than we usually do. Who wants that one? Come on, that's a no-brainer.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the first meeting of the village of the Waukesha.
All right, is there a second to the motion for adjournment?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Trustee Durr, second by Trustee Stigler to adjourn the meeting at 7:36 p.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming to the village of Waukesha.